In just a few hours from now, the House Foreign Affairs Committee on Capitol Hill is going to hold its first hearing on the U.S. exit from Afghanistan in 2021. The Republican-led panel wants to put the Biden administration under the microscope over the plan and the execution of the withdrawal, something Republicans vowed to do if they retook the House majority. Today's hearing, we are told, is going to lean on testimony from volunteers who assisted in that massive evacuation. President Biden, for his part, has long forcefully rejected criticism of the exit and has instead hailed it as an extraordinary success when it came to that massive evacuation in Kabul.
I was not going to extend this forever war.
And you're also going to hear from these veterans, many of them who have exhausted their personal savings. Their kids' 529 plans are going into divorce because they refuse to ever leave a comrade behind. And then finally, Kate, you're going to hear from a Marine sniper and an Army medic who were at Abbey Gate. You're going to hear about the Afghans that were throwing themselves on barbed wire to commit suicide rather than to go out back to the Taliban. And that one of these snipers actually had the Abbey Gate bomber in his sight and was not given permission to take him out. And now we have 13 more dead service members. So today is about accountability.
When it comes to the GOP criticism overall of the Biden administration's exit when they left, you know, some of the pushback that you're going to get from the White House is in part talking about how they believed the stage was in part set because of the agreement that was signed by the Trump administration in Doha with the Taliban. What's your response to that?
Hey, that is I'm so sick of that excuse. The Biden administration had no problem walking away from the Paris Accords, the Trump administration's policy on Iran, Title 42, or the Remain in Mexico on the border. We can go down the long list of Trump policies that they walked away from. Yet on this one, we want to believe that their hands were tied. I don't buy it for a second. And I've got to tell you, you're going to hear today from these veterans who are so morally injured to hear their commander in chief, rather than say we could have done this better, we could have done better in this withdrawal, that this was just an outstanding success. It's politics and spin at its worst when so many people are dead, and those Gold Star families deserve accountability, and they haven't had a single question answered by this administration. And come hell or high water, we're going to get it for them.
Plus, a look at how the rise of the Taliban and back in power has impacted girls in Afghanistan on this International Women's Day.
I'm Salma Abdulaziz in London. For the women and girls of Afghanistan, all hopes of a future were shattered by the Taliban takeover. The group has imposed rules that essentially erase women from public life, barring girls and women from secondary and university education, barring them from most workplaces, and ordering females to veil in public. In fact, the United Nations says these draconian rules by the Taliban could amount to a crime against humanity.
All right, also today, from Iran to Afghanistan, even Ukraine, on this International Women's Day, we are highlighting the challenges that women are facing across the globe. No one better than Christiane Amanpour here in studio to discuss with us.
Oh, there she is.
Here. Also in Afghanistan, groups of young girls protesting outside of Kabul University as their male classmates return to class this week. This video shared on social media shows girls sitting on the ground and reading books. In December, the Taliban banned female students from attending university. So who better to talk to about all of this that holds men to account?
I also have sources who have told me that in Afghanistan, which has literally the world's most draconian anti-girl and anti-women policies established under the Taliban over the last several months, that they know, the Kabul group of Taliban leaders know that they cannot continue like this. And they are trying to convince the fundamentalist religious leaders who live in Kandahar, you know, the Muslim fundamentalists there, that denying girls education is not Islamic and it's not good for Afghanistan.
A U.S. Marine who was wounded in that horrific suicide bomb attack outside the Kabul airport testified that his unit spotted an Afghan man that they believe was the suicide bomber, spotted him ahead of time, but they could not get the authority to engage.
My body was overwhelmed from the trauma of the blast. My abdomen had been ripped open. Every inch of my exposed body, except for my face, took ball bearings and shrapnel.
U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant Tyler Vargas Andrews is now a double amputee.
He was one of the 35 service members injured when a suicide bomber attacked Kabul as the United States was withdrawing from the country. 13 service members died that day.
There was an inexcusable lack of accountability and negligence. The 11 Marines, 1 sailor, and 1 soldier that were murdered that day have not been answered for.
The 25-year-old shared his story with the House Foreign Affairs Committee as they investigate the chaotic and bloody U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Hours before the attack, Vargas Andrews used his sniper gun to spot a man in the crowd of thousands who looked like the suicide bomber that intelligence officials had warned was in the vicinity. He showed the man to his team leader.
We asked him if we could shoot. Our battalion commander said, and I quote, "I don't know," end quote. Myself and my team leader asked very harshly, "Well, who does? Because this is your responsibility, sir." He again replied he did not know, but would find out.
Vargas Andrews never got an answer. He told lawmakers that the Navy and the FBI failed to interview him about his experience.
Plain and simple, we were ignored. Our expertise was disregarded. No one was held accountable for our safety.
He's not the only U.S. service member who is haunted by the memories of that day. Here is former combat medic Aidan Gunderson.
Screams from little children, women, and grown men echoed in the tight corridor. Marines and corpsmen around me fought through tears to provide life-saving aid to our motionless and severely injured American brothers and sisters. Over the next hour, I tried to save the lives of countless Marines. We all tried our best. It was a nightmare.
Some witnesses blamed the Biden administration for the evacuation's failures.
Good afternoon.
Others widened the aperture.
This is not the story of a Biden failure or a Trump failure. This is a story of an American failure and the effect it has had and continues to have on Afghans who served alongside myself and so many others.
Multiple witnesses were U.S. veterans who stood up unofficial networks to help Afghans escape the country. They said they got requests from high-ranking U.S. government officials to help them get people out.
Us, private citizens, receiving requests from our own government to assist what is essentially a governmental function. It was humbling, it was terrifying, it was at times stupefying.
Now, one of those who provided testimony today, Jake, warned of a mental health tsunami for the veterans who were involved in trying to get out Afghans who they had actually worked with in Afghanistan. Just talked about how challenging that was and how hard it was on them when they weren't able to get out some of the folks that they worked with in the country. Of course, today we didn't see any Biden administration officials providing testimony, but we do expect that this committee is going to be seeking out that testimony from administration officials down the road. This is just an investigation that is only beginning, and presumably this testimony that was provided today, in addition to documents that they are trying to get from the administration, are going to be what will drive the questions for Biden administration officials when they do provide testimony. Jake?
All right, Kylie Atwood, thanks so much.